You expect me to talk?
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Written by George MacDonald Fraser, Richard Maybaum and Michael G. Wilson, once again directed by John Glenn, let's talk about 1983's Octopussy. I already did a video about this film, but you know, it was my very first video I ever did, and it lacked in quality and it didn't do the movie justice at all, so I erased it immediately and decided to do another one. And here we are, because this movie is very close to my heart. It's one of my favorite films, it's in my top 5, and it's my favorite film with Roger Moore. So I need to talk about it again in detail. Let's do it. 1983. It was a special year, because if you don't know about this, there was a competing film coming to the cinemas called Never Say Never Again, which brought back Sean Connery. This wasn't an official Eon James Bond film. This was, as I said, a competing project. And a little backstory for those of you who don't know about this, because I think it's an interesting one. There's a man called Kevin McClory. Kevin McClory worked together with Ian Fleming on the novel Thunderball, or at least contributed some ideas to the story. So there was a legal battle going on for decades. Was very tough on Fleming. Some said it even had to do with his decline in health. So there was a legal battle for the rights of the story going on, and at one point McClory won this battle. So he got the rights to the story Thunderball, and decided by the early 80s to do his own version of the story. So he did essentially what is a remake of Thunderball with Never Say Never Again. He managed to get Sean Connery, you know, who, had a little feud going on with the producers of the Bond films. So I don't know why he did it, but he did it. So this was a competing film. You had two Bonds in the same year. One was Octopussy and one was Never Say Never Again. Pretty interesting. In the end, talking about box office, Octopussy clearly won the battle. And I think it's by far the better film. I think this movie got a bad rap unfairly for many years. Most of the people complain about its humor. I didn't get it, because, you know, there's some Tarzan yell going on. There's a few jokes which fell a little flat, but okay. I think it's such a small dosage. It's not that it's, A View to a Kill is way more comedic than this one. So I never got the criticism. Some say Roger Moore was already too old to play Bond. I disagree. I think he looked amazing. I mean, the guy was 43 when he did his first film. 42 or 43. And he always looked at least 10 years younger than he actually was. And he looked younger than he actually was in Octopussy. I think he could have been 45. So those are the major complaints some people have. Let me tell you what I love most about this film. I think it's actually a pretty rough spy thriller, a pretty great Cold War spy thriller. And I think there's just humor sprinkled in there every now and then. I think it's actually at times pretty serious film. I mean, take the whole plot, for example. The Russians trying to detonate a dirty bomb at some military base in Germany, using Octopussy's traveling circus as a cover-up for this. Planning to kill women, children, everybody. That's pretty serious stuff. And as I said, I think humor is just sprinkled in there. Yeah, that's just my opinion. So the Soviets are basically trying to expand their territory. And they got help from Prince Kamal Khan. This is a classic Bond villain. Louis Jourdan plays the character. He's got a pretty funny accent, French accent, and mixed with lots of British snobism going on. I like his face. He got a very charismatic face. And he got some great scenes with Roger Moore. There's one of my favorite casino scenes in the series when they are in India. I'm talking about the locations a little later. And, in this scene, we got the classic Bond cat and mouse play. They are playing poker, and of course, Kamal is just like Goldfinger, not playing fair. And Roger Moore gets him. And yeah, it's a great scene. And then you got his henchman Gopinda, who's crushing those things, and he's kind of an Indian version of Jaws, I would say. So those are classic Bond elements, and you got other henchmen too. You got Mishka and Klishka, those twin killers. They're knife throwing killers. And pretty rough, the movie starts with those two killing an MI6 agent who's dressed up as a clown. And I remember watching this as a kid, and I thought it was pretty brutal, pretty sad, because maybe I associated something lighthearted with this clown who got brutally murdered by those ruthless killers, So I thought it was pretty rough, and the way he's crashing through the window at the embassy, pretty dark stuff in my opinion. So there are many great, amazing, unforgettable villains in this film. Roger Moore is great as he always is, charming as he always is, brings a little lightheartedness to the film. I think he got great chemistry with the villains. I think, his scenes with Kamal Khan are very entertaining, very Bondian. Lots of witticisms going on here, as Goldfinger would say. And there's another amazing element regarding the cast of this film, and it's Maud Adams playing Octopussy. She's an interesting character, and she's an amazing Bond girl. First of all, she got the look. She has a very classy look. Very classy woman, very old school. I love her outfits, the whole robe she's wearing with the octopus on it. It's such beautiful, creative visuals, very stylish. And there's a little backstory coming from Fleming. So Bond and Octopussy have a backstory with her father, and pretty dramatic. I won't get into it in detail now because it would take up too much time. But it's interesting, those Fleming to have those Fleming elements in the film. Very great as a fan. And I think, again, Roger Moore and Maud Adams, they have very good chemistry going on here. I would have even loved if she had a little more screen time, because she's very charismatic and very believable, a very serious person who went through much in her life, who had an awful childhood. But she made her way out of this, her own misery, and she became a tough person and learned to survive on her own. And she has this traveling circus, and it's such a great plot. She doesn't realize that she's only used by the prince and the Soviets, as a cover up for their operation. She's a pretty smart person, but she doesn't realize this. And so Bond comes in, and the rest is Bond history. So I think she's an amazing character. Amazing villains, amazing Bond girl, amazing Roger Moore. The locations in this film, the exotic locations are pretty great. India was a very nice choice. It has a little Indiana Jones 2 feeling. A lot of people talked about this, and I think this is right. Back in my childhood days, I always thought they borrowed ideas from Indy 2, but it must have been exactly the opposite, because this film came first, and 2 years later was Indiana Jones 2. So pretty interesting, right? So did Indiana Jones borrow the ideas from Octopussy? I think so. So those dinner scene in India, and I think that's all great. And the whole hunting bond with the elephants. There's a pretty interesting, funny line from Kamal Khan. Mr. Bond, you're indeed a very rare breed, and you have to go extinct, or something like that. And then they're hunting him like an animal. It's really great stuff. Um, the action scenes are amazing. I think it's maybe the best action in the Roger Moore era. There's a fight on a train going on. Some stuntman got seriously injured while doing this. I think he almost died or lost an arm or something. Pretty tragic stuff. And you can feel the danger in the film. What you see is what you get. You got amazing stunt work. There's a great car chase. And there's one of my favorite action scenes in the series going on at the end at the plane. Kamal is trying to escape, taking Octopussy hostage, and Bond is jumping on the starting plane. And was decades before Mission Impossible even was a thing. And of course, Roger Moore isn't doing those stunts, but what you see is what you get. There was actually a stuntman hanging on to the plane, just like Tom Cruise did decades later. And I think it was again B.J. Worth was the name of the stuntman. He also did stunt work for A View to a Kill. And I think he did amazing work. He was talking about getting thrown off the thing again and again. And amazing to watch this. So there's many amazing action scenes in the film. There's a car chase with a tuk-tuk in India, which is pretty refreshing, pretty new, pretty funny. I haven't ever seen something like this before, so that's pretty great. There's a pretty rough fight scene going on when they hire two Indian killers to get Bond and Octopussy, and they interrupt them, while they are sleeping and trying to kill them, with a saw blade. And that's a pretty rough scene, speaking about the serious tone of the film. There's no humor in this at all, and there's a pretty dark score from John Barry going on, which contributes to the danger, to the feelings of danger in this scene. And talking about the score, that's also not a funny, light-hearted score like in some of the other films. There are none of those elements. It's pretty dark stuff, and it's transports a feeling of danger, especially in this scene. So I think it's a very, very great score again by John Barry. All of those elements make this an amazing film, in my opinion. There's a very well-written Cold War spy thriller in there. It's an amazing plot. It has many great villains, all of them menacing present. Forgot to mention one, Steven Berkoff plays General Orlov. Again, a pretty dark personality, very charismatic also. There's amazing stunt work, great action. There's a strong Bond girl. There are exotic locations. As I said, it's a brilliant plot. It's amazing score by John Barry. So many elements make this one of my favorites. I know some fans, they describe it as, having, what do they say, cheesy pizza and beer, and they're watching this if they are in a more not so serious mood. Yeah, I disagree. I think it's a pretty serious film, a pretty great Cold War spy thriller with some humorous elements just sprinkled in there. That's just my opinion. And maybe I was able to, convince you to rewatch it again, to give it another try. And thank you for watching. Love you, love the Bond community. See you very soon.